RuneScape. Do you play RuneScape?
No, RuneScape. What is the link for YouTube?
My link?
Oh,
Your
just
link?
a link that they're streaming to.
Your link is working. My link is working. The Exotica link should work. All the links. It's all the links.
All the links. All right, so I'm gonna tweet this.
Should I put it
YouTube
underneath?
link.
Should I tweet it
Oh,
underneath your shit?
Well, I'm making it another tweet.
I'll
So
put my channels.
You can make a tweet for Twitch and shit. I just did one for YouTube and for Exotica. All right, you ready, man?
I'm here.
I think we got it going.
I don't remember what the fuck we're supposed to be talking about at this point.
Well, the title. So let's do a little intro, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So this is Bit by Bit. My name is John, and I'm with Devin here.
Hi.
I do Bitcoin Eralog and shit, and I have Exotica.tv. And, you know, I've been talking to Devin for a while in private channels, and he always has good questions about Bitcoin stuff. And we always find ourselves saying, oh man, we should record this and we should stream this. And so we're going to try it. And Devin likes to game and stream gaming, so we're going to try playing some fun games and while we talk about this stuff, so you don't have to look at our ugly faces. And maybe we'll add those later too. We'll see.
Hopefully.
So what's your deal, man? Like you're a Bitcoiner, you're a shitcoiner. What are you?
So wait, should I take off? I have a little starting soon thing on here. I'm gonna take that out now. I'm just gonna make it so it's the game, and yeah, I can see you now.
Yep.
Your beautiful, sexy body. Like, you want me to give the whole backstory, or you want me to actually do like my bio and
I don't know.
crypto?
Just tell me. Like give everybody a feel for basically what you are in Bitcoin, why you're in Bitcoin, what your interests are.
I'm here for the ride. I came here very late, and I think it's really exciting. I think a lot of interesting economic debate comes from Bitcoin. And I have graphics cards, so I like to mine shitcoins. And I probably will never spend a fucking dime on actually any of this shit, like any real money.
Are you mining shitcoins right now?
I tried mining some new shit last night, and then the miner crashed. I didn't even notice. It crashed about an hour into it. And I just go, sometimes I'll go on like whattomine.com, and then I'll just looking to see what's popping. I'll try to go for whatever is like lower on the list if it's brand new, and then I'll mine that for a bit.
So you speculate on what you're going to mine. You don't even mine. You just speculate on what would be profitable.
Yeah, for the most part, like I mean, there's no rule to any of this stuff. So if I feel like I think there is some conspiracy to this, because you could steadily make about, you know, somewhere between $4 and $6 per graphics card, as long as you're staying with like the newer technology, for the past like 2 to 3 years. And then eventually, I mean, that's per day. So like if you consider like how much money you make as far as an investment goes, if you just hold all that coin, it's actually like, it's a pretty interesting investment like decision to make. I mean, maybe it's not as good as like buying Bitcoin outright, but if you don't really want to get involved in like, you know, actually like putting your identity on the line or anything like that, it's a good way to get like, you know, untraceable currency. I would argue it's probably a better way of getting untraceable currency, if that's what you're really trying to go for, than like trading it. You know what I mean? Like
you're saying that the best reason to mine shitcoins, or, you know, speculate on mining shitcoins, is that you can get them without having to access any sort of KYC or anything.
So that is one thing. That is definitely a fact. Like if I really wanted to, all I need is a solar panel, a 4G connection or less, if that's possible, and a GPU, and I can get drugs from anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's interesting. I mean, that's a crude example, but yeah, I mean, like really, it's interesting how you can kind of create money out of thin air if you have the proper technology, and you don't even really need that many resources. Like I don't even need really shelter to the most degree. I just need to make sure like my shit's not gonna get wet. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't really even need to house myself. Like I could go like live in the woods with my little graphics card, and like essentially have shit like delivered to me. I mean, like it would take a very fucking long time, but you could also like strike fucking.
So you can just live off the grid by mining shitcoin.
You could, but you could also hit the lottery too. Like I mean, like if you mined Monero last year, you know what I mean, before the price went up, or if you mined Monero like 2 years ago, or any Ethereum, like right when it came out, any of that shit, you hit the fucking jackpot. You know what I mean? Like, and that's untraceable cash.
Or Bitcoin.
If yeah, but like okay, exactly like Bitcoin, obviously, yes. But like that's not possible anymore. You can't do that. Like if 9 years ago, yeah, you can. But like if we're gonna talk about like Junseth's
So why do you think there's so much inefficiency in the market then, where like really at any moment right now you're saying somebody can buy a state-of-the-art GPU and make a profit?
I don't know why there's an inefficiency in the market. Okay, so I do think that there's a. Are we sure this is being syndicated and everything? Is this live and everything right now?
I don't know. You're the one streaming it.
I see it on Twitch. I see everybody.
Yeah, I see it. It's
okay.
there.
Are people on Exotic or anything like that? Anybody's talking?
We have 7 viewers on Exotica.
Okay, good. I'd rather them be there than anything. But then you manage the chat thing, because I'm just like keeping tabs on all my other shitty links.
Yeah.
But no one's coming to those, and that's probably a good thing.
I should probably take a look at the YouTube chat as well.
But I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
is there a reason for mining shitcoins? Yes, there is a reason for mining shitcoin. Is there a political and practical reason for mining shitcoins? 100%. People can't access Bitcoin. It's a lot easier to mine, you know, hundredths of a cent of whatever shitcoin you're mining, and then exchange it for Doge on some exchange, and then get Bitcoin than it is to actually get Bitcoin with like USD or something like that. If you're in like you know, some random place like maybe Venezuela or like China or something, I don't really know exactly. I mean, those are probably bad examples, and I don't really understand how, you know, being poor probably correlates to actually trying to get currency. I can't really speak on that, but I would say it's a lot easier. Like it's a lot easier to transact. Like if
no, I think it's an interesting point. I think it's maybe, you know, I think that, you know, even aside from this point, that altcoins do serve a purpose, and they are like a way that Bitcoin has scaled naturally. And I do think that if you're using a shitcoin or any blockchain for, you know, just a transactional purpose, in other words, you're going to mine it, you're going to sell it, and you're going to turn it into Bitcoin, then you don't need it to be like as secure as Bitcoin, because you only need to trust it for the moments while you're putting value in it, and then when you take that value out, you don't have to trust it anymore. So like there's this kind of like intrinsic utility to having a blockchain, even if it's centralized. You're just taking a risk by using it, because
there's no risk though. The technology's already there. I mean, the technology's already proven. People
the
are
time risk. The time risk gets exponential over time, I guess, probably.
But yeah,
but you're only using it for a few minutes or a few days, so it's like your risk is minimized. And so that does provide utility in that way, and that is kind of a way that Bitcoin does scale. But I think it's like Bitcoin scales as an ecosystem. It's not just the chain; it's everything that happens around it.
Bitcoin. So this is like I guess the question I'm kind of getting at. I'm not really going to formulate it correctly right now, but like for me, I don't understand why it has to be Bitcoin. I understand like it's been like the longest chain, and that's where the most of the development is. But like theoretically, and I guess, I mean, the argument is that like if something better came along, they just incorporate it into Bitcoin. But like we can see how stagnant the community is. If there is some type of forking of the community where they're like, look, this is obviously better, we're just going to start working on this. That's not, to me, that's not like an implausibility. And I feel like Bitcoin itself is very at risk to that. And we already see that because like you have the facade of all this, like these bullshit coins kind of taking that like role already. They're like, hey, look, no, we're better because of this, or we're better because of that, or like it's more feasible to use this for whatever reason. But like really, they're kind of scratching the surface at like a larger issue where it's like there are these like imperfections to Bitcoin that we haven't really tackled yet, and maybe they're more difficult to tackle than just, you know, like making a new altcoin, obviously. But like there's a weak spot, there's a sensitive area to Bitcoin that is vulnerable and will be probably exploited to some degree, and you might see some type of forking or a new coin or something that replaces it in the future, because like right now as it is, Bitcoin doesn't really help everybody the way it was supposed to, from my understanding.
All right, so you're saying a lot there.
Yeah.
first of all, there is no thing that Bitcoin is supposed to do. Anytime you say what you think Bitcoin should be doing, you're just projecting what you think it should be doing. In the end,
Well, then why are people
it's
using
just a
it?
protocol, and it works exactly at like the sticker says. So if it's not working in some way that you don't like, it's not that it's failing to perform. It's that maybe it's not the best tool for the job.
I'm not saying that, but like, okay, but why do I want to like adopt this idea about how Bitcoin works if it's kind of used in very like skewed ways, or ways that can be kind of easily manipulated,
Yeah.
like for people's like perspectives?
I do think that value in coin markets does at least partially reflect value that could be in Bitcoin, and were it some other way, were it more centralized and provide that efficiency, or were it more advanced or further along in development and provide this other efficiency or scaling, whatever. And so I do think that you do see some of the market being pulled away into altcoins and into other interests for blockchain, etc. But I think it's okay, because in the end, Bitcoin can only ever be Bitcoin, its own one central aspect as a blockchain, and so it can never be an alternative to Bitcoin. And this is kind of the concept that I think a lot of people really don't understand when it comes down to talking about a fork. Like I find the whole notion of saying that if X and Y happen, that now this blockchain is called Bitcoin. Like, to me, that's totally ridiculous. I think that Bitcoin is just always going to be this original version of the chain, and it will probably live for a very, very, very long time, even if it becomes unpopular. And I think the only way you actually fork a coin in the way that people like Coinbase and the New York Agreement signers are envisioning is by having some way to confidently transfer the actual value that the people put in that chain from one chain to another. And that's not what happens when you fork.
I mean, but hold on, wait.
You just make a copy and you hope everybody will use your copy instead.
No, but you fork all the time with Bitcoin. Like, that's like, forking is just like a part of the development process. Like, it happens all the time. It's just people like choose like, okay, no, we're gonna fork this way because
no, it doesn't happen all the time.
Like a hard fork in Bitcoin
hasn't really happened. You had people, a hard fork in the concept of people like the New York Agreement is when they successfully get everybody to abandon a chain.
Yeah, but
there's never been any abandonment of the original chain in Bitcoin.
No, but that's okay. But that's saying, okay, look, our technology is better, and look, that's a good example of this. Really, I mean, look, I understand why. Like, actually, I don't. Actually, to be honest, we'll have to get into this because I don't really understand what the New York Agreement is.
I'm actually kind of all right. I'm actually kind of agreeing with you, because what I'm trying to say is that the only way you have a successful fork really is if everybody decides a different blockchain is worth more. And it might be Bitcoin 2.0, it might be an upgrade or whatever, but in the end, you still have to abandon the old chain, and everybody has to choose to revalue the new chain. And the odds are that any time that's actually going to happen in real life is going to be a much more organic process, much more economic
developers
process
have to be behind it. The core if the core
developers, it's the users that have to be behind it.
Well, because they have to swap their software, because they could just stay on the old software.
You have to have people that are willing to buy those new Bitcoins.
I honestly don't believe that, because here's the thing. No, and that doesn't matter. And the price should never matter in any of this, to be honest. Like, I don't really feel like the price should. The price could be what it is. But
is the best measure of how successful everything is.
It's not measure shit. Like, how is Bitcoin successful for anything?
I don't know.
It's like if you're transferring.
We're here making TV shows about it. We're here talking.
Yeah, but you're transferring. You're generally transferring the wealth. Like, the only reason why you're saying this exactly, like, Bitcoin's worth USD.
Well,
oh my God.
You can use it to store wealth as well, safely and without permission.
It's a speculation, and like, we're kind of just like, the more we talk about it, we can say, hey, look, Bitcoin's going to go up. It's going to go up. It's a restricted thing, and it's going to, there's only 21 million of them. So if eventually everyone is going to have to use this thing.
You're jumping around.
You don't have to.
There's a lot of different concepts you're talking
about.
You're talking about the difference between speculation, between greed, between people using it as sound money. These are all. Everybody finds different.
But I'm saying that the reason why people speculate in Bitcoin is not because of the price. It's because that the technology behind it is very solid. It's because the development process behind it is very solid.
Yeah, and they know.
And if you have all the developers of Bitcoin go along and say, "Hey, look, by the way, we fucked up, and we need to do this new shit called quantum coin because quantum coin uses quantum fucking physics, something like that or other. I don't know, like invisible blockchain technology, and we're gonna use that now." And so Bitcoin, you can still use that, but like we're gonna develop this shit instead. We're not gonna develop that anymore. People might still use Bitcoin, but it doesn't. It's gonna be unsafe.
Are you playing the game at all? Remember,
not really.
You're the one streaming, not me, man. Oh, you're trying to catch fish. Part and you're.
That's funny. Not really.
Play some fishing, man. See if you can talk and fish at the same time.
It's difficult, man. This is real talk right now. I just I have trouble to believe that like there's not going to be a replacement that actually is better. Currently, we don't have that. I'm not saying that there's anything that's plausible.
Bitcoin maximalism, Bitcoin
besides Monero, but
minimalism things. They have every extreme has its own flaw, and so I do think that altcoins are okay and they're part of how Bitcoin works as an ecosystem. I do think that if we are going to fork, it will be kind of like what you're talking about, where there would just be a coin that provides people better services, that does the job better, whatever. Maybe it's more private. Maybe Bitcoin goes private, and because it goes private, it gets up getting attacked more, and that ends up making it less valuable than some other coin that isn't private. There's all kinds of reasons why the market itself might value one version of a blockchain more than another, but in the end, the market currently right now is valuing Bitcoin the most, and I think it's with good reason.
I don't know if the market.
It's the most secure. It's got the most network effect.
It's not what okay, but it's also the most influenced. It's like the most easily manipulated. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
No, it's the least. That's
people
literally
hold on to their coins because they think it's going to be useful, and then the price goes up, and then all of a sudden someone releases all their coins, and then people realize, wait, there's not really much we can fucking do with this.
But this only gets worse with shitcoins, man. Don't if you're comparing it to other blockchains, keep that in mind.
No, I'm not comparing it to other blockchains because I don't really think that any of this stuff really matters currently. I think it's good for some things. Like it's really good for certain people to be able to transfer value in a way that they don't have to worry about like the repercussions of whatever transactions they're doing. But like whether or not like the whole like value of that needs to go up, like we have other alternatives for this. Now whether or not people are going to accept United States dollars or whatever for it is debatable. But if you have, like I said, enough people that are developing for it,
well, in the end,
Ethereum is a good example of that.
The idea is that eventually you're not going to sell your bitcoins. You're just going to be transacting with them.
I mean, theoretically, could you not run your business on Ethereum? Besides the fact that it's kind of not secure, but like it has enough development.
No, you know why?
And
because
backing.
They could at any moment decide that Ethereum does not find adult content to be welcome on their network, and they could lock me out of coins. They could decide my coins belong to somebody else. That's why I won't use Ethereum. You can't build on Ethereum.
Okay, but maybe not like the idea of Ethereum, but like Ethereum has backing. Maybe Dash, okay, like whatever. Maybe Zcash. Like you could,
the end, that's kind of the same problem with all of these. Is you don't really want to build too much on any specific small weak chain that either has
But you could though.
One or two or more aspects of extreme centralization, because eventually you're going to have a problem. They're going to censor you.
So okay, let's Litecoin, whatever. You could do Litecoin.
Yeah, we could do Litecoin. Why not?
I'm not saying that like you should, but it's possible.
Personally, I want bitcoins.
What if you found out that
I want to help build the Bitcoin infrastructure.
What if you found out like tomorrow, like the price is heavily manipulated in Bitcoin, and that like Litecoin is not actually? Like and for somehow they came out with like a scientific analysis, like, oh, by the way, like our network is actually super decentralized and our mining is super decentralized, and it's actually more reliable because of this, because X, Y, and Z. Like, would you be like inclined to all of a sudden like accept
you're saying
Litecoin?
What if reality wasn't reality?
No, I'm saying
that makes your reality okay.
I'm saying that like I don't really understand the Bitcoin story the way that like I feel like I should, and I feel like it is a heavily tainted like thing. Whether or not it's the most reliable currency, I'm not debating that, or whether it's not the most.
Everybody in Bitcoin loves their conspiracy theories.
I don't even think it's really conspiracy theory. I just think that like it's kind of obvious.
Manipulation is a conspiracy theory. You don't know. You can't prove it, and you can't know it unless you're the person doing it.
I don't know. Whatever, whatever, maybe. I don't really think that like Bitcoin is like is like sacred and like totally like immune to like being tainted. Like it's not decentralized in the sense that like the people developing it and the people that have been developing it for a very long time may be influencing the development of the coin in ways that we might not be noticing over long periods of time that we don't really pay attention to because we're not that keen to the
wrong
idea.
At all. And it's happened before.
Yeah, one SegWit's a great idea, a great point. Like with Bitmain.
Not SegWit. Well, I'm talking about like Mike Hearn used to be somebody that contributed, and he ended up being able to get a significant bug that did almost cause a Bitcoin fork. And all the miners and everybody had to get together in IRC and coordinate to make sure the right chain was the longest work and to keep everybody where they were supposed to be. All because of some developer that put something in. So it is possible for core devs to get stuff in that is bad for Bitcoin. And we are having to trust the great majority of people in Bitcoin and everywhere that touch this are having to trust reputations of people that actually know how the programming works and et cetera. In the end, most of us can't read a lick of it. Most of us can't, even if we could, wouldn't feel confident enough to say that it was safe or, didn't have some kind of exploit. You really, and I don't know whether this is good or bad, but you really do need people that know how to do this stuff, being the guardians of it. But you do have to trust them.
Honestly, like this is a point for like banks. Like the centralization thing kind of makes sense. Like they're held accountable for the process that they do. Maybe some of the shit's still crooked, and maybe there's some ill intent going on behind closed doors as far as the banking process goes, but those people are held accountable. You can't hold open source developers accountable for like the way that they're developing technology. And if you don't really understand what's going on in those back channels, the back IRC channels,
but that's the price you have to pay, because you understand if you could,
you don't have to pay that price.
This wouldn't be possible.
What if I want my blockchain technology to be run by the government? Because of this exact reason. I'm not saying that this is something that's going to happen, but maybe this is an argument. It's not an argument.
But you don't need it. You don't need a blockchain for the government to run it. They can track it for you. They can run their own hashing database.
What if I want the development team to be accountable for how the technology? Maybe it still should be open source, but the main people that are like linked to the GitHub. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I don't want Bitcoin. Maybe I don't feel that it's comfortable. Maybe exactly, that's my point. And that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of people actually don't actually want Bitcoin. They just think that they need it. Like, who the fuck really wants Bitcoin? Like, why the fuck do I want Bitcoin? Why do I want fucking money on my computer?
You want Bitcoin because you can have money.
I want United States dollars. I want that fucking grain.
Yeah.
I want the kashish. And yeah, maybe Bitcoin's going to go up in money and then I get more US dollars in the end run, but maybe fucking Bitcoin crashes tomorrow. Maybe fucking like the mining farm, all the miners.
And you want to run to Romania and dollars are a pain in the
maybe
ass.
That's actually more of a possibility than any of this. But like, maybe SegWit has code in that blows up fucking ASIC miners. I don't fucking know. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's shit in there that like, I'll never know. And like, it's just, yeah, that's not like necessarily a plausibility, but like, it's not actually impossible. It's already kind of happened.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I think we know why people Bitcoin, and I assume you're being a little bit, facetious.
Yeah, I'm going to be exaggerative, yeah.
It is because they can have money and have total control over it without anybody getting in the way. And I do think that is extremely valuable. And now being able to do that through the internet, and this opens up a lot of possibilities. And I do think it's still underpriced. It just will take time and more people getting into it. And I don't think that means that other shitcoins, other altcoins, other blockchains can't also be very valuable. I don't think it even means that there might not be one that takes over from Bitcoin. I just think it's pretty unlikely and going to be very difficult. But anything's possible in the future. You don't know.
I gotta be honest, so like I got into this because I was like, oh, I can print money from my computer. But like the reason why I'm turned off from Bitcoin is because everybody goes, you shouldn't want Bitcoin because it's free money. And then that's all fucking people are caring about. Like it's like, oh, but Bitcoin's gonna go up in money. It's gonna be free money. It's like a very hypocritical like argument to me that like you're telling people, no, you can't make new blockchains, but I'm just gonna sit on my fucking money and pretend it's like it's worth something, and then it's gonna go up in value, and then tell people to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really hear people saying it as free money. I do know plenty of people
Bitcoin
buy it
originally
want it to go up.
Bitcoin's
they
free
want
money.
it to go up in USD value, but part of that is also because Bitcoin seems to be working pretty good as a hedge against inflation. And I actually think that will be a major thing about it. I think that, the more that governments feel like they need to print money to fix their problems, Bitcoin will just absorb that. And instead of having something that goes down in value, like your house or, all these other things, and always having to feel like you need to spend your money, you actually can save with Bitcoin. And over time, it will be like, a counterbalance to inflation.
See, that was very interesting. Like, I never really considered that it would be used as like an economic tool against like governments kind of fucking up their own currencies. And it makes sense though, because like as you deflate your currency,
being a better money,
but that's going to change. And I honestly, like, this is something that Tone Vay said, and I don't really listen to a lot of these like Bitcoin podcasts and whatnot. I only pick up little pieces and here and there. But like Tone Vay's kind of said this, how like you're going to probably see a fork of Bitcoin or something like that that makes it larger than the 21 million cap. And like, personally, like I'd like to see that. I don't think that like I had a fair shot at
in the end. In the end, it doesn't really matter too much how many pieces you cut the pie into. It matters how
I want more pie.
It matters how much of the pie you have, right?
Exactly. But no, but it matters how much of the entire pie you have. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how much you have, but of the entire. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about these. We said we're talking about forkers, and phishing.
I have a lot of questions actually.
We talked a little bit about altcoins as a concept, and in a way, those are forks. But
do you have notes?
Not the kind of forks. No.
Okay.
But I'm just recalling some conversations we've had and what was interesting. And what's going on right now, which is like we have these fucking airdrop forks like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, and now SegWit 2x happening like in a couple weeks or less. From your perspective in the Bitcoin world, what do you think about this? How's this affecting you?
So, okay, can we backtrack a little bit and then like maybe this will help formulate this answer? But so like, what is the NYA agreement? What the fuck were they talking about? What's the New York agreement?
So, going back a few years now, there's been like a subsector of Bitcoiners, primarily Bitcoin CEOs of companies that are basically providing some sort of centralized service around Bitcoin, like Coinbase, BitPay, as well as a few different developers and pundits like Roger Ver, Mike Hearn was very early in this, but also Gavin and Jeff Garzik being the primary one now. Over time, they all tried various things to get us to increase the block size. They had Bitcoin Classic, Bitcoin Unlimited, all these like fork attempts of the code, but they never really got anything more than like nodes off the ground. They never got people to mine it. They never got an actual to happen. They never issued an actual coin. And then finally, we had SegWit, which SegWit is a really good technology that helps with Bitcoin scaling in a layered way, which is, in my opinion, the proper way to do it. It keeps the core of Bitcoin, more efficient and less prone to centralization, and allows things to build things on top of it. And SegWit, for whatever reason, was the way they chose to have it activated in Bitcoin required the miners basically to cooperate. And the miners, for whatever reason, would not cooperate. They would just did not want to let SegWit come through. There are various speculations as to why the miners wouldn't allow this. One popular one is there's like kind of an exploit in Bitcoin mining, which was dubbed ASIC boost, which gives people with a certain advantage in mining if they implemented in their chips. And this provided a great deal more profit for the people using this than the miners not using this, which essentially means taking money away from others.
So wait. So this is what I was talking about. So this has to do with Bitmain, right? This
is a long story. I'm trying to give you the whole string.
Well, no, but this is really important. I really want to understand this. So this has to do with Bitmain, right? And so they say basically that ASIC boost works with SegWit.
ASIC boost is supposedly doesn't work with SegWit, or it might just be there's two ways to do ASIC boost. It's covert and overt. Covert would be so you can do it and nobody notices. Overt would be you can do it but everybody will notice. I don't recall whether or not SegWit blocks overt, but I'm pretty sure because of fixing transaction malleability, which is another thing. It basically serializes transactions so you can rely on them always being identifiable the same way. because of Bitcoin didn't have that is partly what allowed this exploit. And everybody listening, go verify what I'm saying, because I don't know all the details. I don't know everything about Bitcoin, but this is the general gist of it. But anyway, so miners may have been blocking it because they had this advantage, and mining is too centralized, so too many of the miners had this advantage,
Yeah.
and maybe they were blocking SegWit and didn't want it because of that. Another argument is that some miners feel that the second layer will make transactions too cheap because it does use the space more efficiently. But this argument is kind of counterintuitive if they're also wanting bigger blocks, because that will have a similar effect, though not as good. In the end, everybody wanted SegWit but the miners. So the corporations, they want Bitcoin to be able to have more transaction capacity, for whatever reason. My theory is that they have investors, and in order to get more investment money, they have to be able to promise more and more throughput. And if Bitcoin literally mathematically can't support the throughput they need to pitch to these people, then they can't get the money. So they want Bitcoin to be a really major network. And so these guys kind of ended up meeting with these miners that didn't want SegWit and making an agreement. A very small, maybe 30 representatives of businesses and miners. No developers supporting it, no support from anywhere except specifically these CEOs and these miners. And they decided, well, let's do a truce. Let's activate SegWit, and if we activate SegWit, we'll agree to a hard fork that also changes the block size to 2 megabytes, which effectively is actually a lot more. I think it's around roughly 8 effectively when you have SegWit and the 2 megabytes. So it becomes a much more a much larger consideration, because the more overhead you put on running a node, the more you cause centralization. So you could just make things worse and worse. This is why we want layered scaling instead of increasing the block size.
Okay, so I guess repeat this one last. I think I understood you, but this seems to be pretty important. So when you have a larger block size, it centralizes the blockchain more so because you're more reliant on the single node to calculate those transactions.
It's that if you increase the cost of a node, and so when you increase the block size, you don't just it doesn't just take more hard drive space. It increases bandwidth usage. It increases total resource usage on whatever server you're running as a business as well. Like, for example, with Exotica, right now we run Bitcoin on the same. We can run Bitcoin on the same server as the whole entire platform, and Bitcoin uses way more resources. But if we have to do SegWit 2x, we're probably going to have to get an additional server. So that means that you have to be a business that can afford to have 2 servers to have a Bitcoin business.
You should probably have multiple servers.
So automatically but you understand what I'm saying? My point here is that you increase overhead costs. That means that businesses have to be bigger to do this. And so now you become more centralized. And this effect ripples and it kind of gets worse and worse as you go to the top. And I actually think we already have a centralization issue.
But
if we can have a few businesses and a few miners decide that they want to just fork Bitcoin. And this fork is very contentious. The users don't want it. And so if it essentially turns this whole New York agreement, it's, in my opinion, an agreement to release a product. They've all decided that, they're going to activate SegWit on Bitcoin, and as a counter, as a second step to that, they're going to release a product that also includes SegWit in bigger blocks, and they're going to hope people transfer their value to that product and leave the original Bitcoin chain.
I don't even think it's that serious. I think you're overthinking it. I think it's really because every time you fork the chain, there's inclination to now mine that chain. I don't know whether it's
serious or not, but that is how I see it from a logic stream.
I don't think they're going to even take it that far. Maybe, but every time you fork these chains, you're just making more money out of nowhere. Because
no, that money comes from somewhere. Somebody buys those coins. Somebody has to hold those coins when nobody wants them. There's only going to be so much value transfer on these chains, and you have to remember, when you fork, it seems nice, it seems like free money, it seems like whatever. But when you fork, you now have to get through all that liquidity of pre-existing coin holders that don't believe in your fork.
No, but the free money comes from the miners.
We have no idea how long it will take. No, the free money comes specifically from anybody who buys those coins. That's where it comes from.
Well, yeah, 100%. But I mean, it's gonna be worth money.
The free money goes to the miners. It doesn't come from the miners.
Well,
because they get to mine a coin that's overvalued because it has bad hashing algorithms.
Yes.
They get to do, they get to do little tricks and make little extra money. Causes volatility in Bitcoin, etc. There's all kinds of ways that they can play things if they have these powers. But yeah, you have to. The problem with forking is it seems nice because it seems like you're going to steal value from Bitcoin. But you have to remember now you're going to have people selling millions of Bitcoins on your platform.
I don't think they're trying to
years that if they don't believe in your coin or find use in it.
I don't think they're trying to steal value. I think they're just trying to create value. Like people,
I think that's
people
what
just buy these ICOs and shit because they think it's going to make money down the line. Like, why not just buy the fork of Bitcoin because you think it's going to go up in value? Like, why not speculate?
I think they're trying to parlay the brand and to make free money, but in the end, somebody is. So the money does come from whoever pays for those coins, on Bitfinex, wherever.
But that's the same thing with Bitcoin.
Yeah, but the thing is that Bitcoin actually has network effect and a lot of value and way more liquidity and way more of a stronger ecosystem than any shitcoin will. Even SegWit2x.
Agreed.
SegWit2x doesn't have developers you can trust, right? Like, think about that. We were talking about earlier, like how much trust we have to actually have in these guys because we're not qualified to even vet them. And now you want to trust like shady dudes like Garzik. And if you should join the SegWit2x mailing list and just look at the representatives and how they speak and the way they interact and the way they like make decisions. They're the trolls, man. They're bullies, they're bullies, they're bullheaded, they're impossible, they're ignorant. They say like dumb shit. They do like bad debate tactics like ad hominem attacks and all kinds of stupid. They're just like nowhere near anybody you put trust in with all your money. And so they're going to fail. There's no other outcome to this. The chain may stick around. People might mine it and speculators might float it for years. But it is never. This SegWit2x thing will never be worth as much as Bitcoin.
It's crazy though, but like even the fact that it doesn't matter if it's not worth as much as Bitcoin. Like it doesn't matter as long as it can be worth something. It therefore is a competitor, and it really doesn't matter about the value because the value of Bitcoin doesn't matter either. Like it just matters how much you can get for it.
As the market matures, that shit will float less and less. Right now there's a lot of inefficiency. There's a lot of ignorance.
But that's only because it's a shitty product. Yeah, it's a shitty product. But something comes along and says, "Hey, look, we're actually gonna like really try to fucking fix this whole thing because this shit's not working out right now."
They might, but nobody has.
Agreed. And maybe it's because the people that haven't done it yet have a personal stake in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's very like easily manipulated. It's very easily influenced.
Everything else is more easily manipulated, so I don't really like that line of argument.
Okay, but no, but my line of argument is that they're not like Bitcoin's no better than everything else. Is my argument.
Well,
you kind of agree with that.
The only way you can make that argument is if you're comparing it to like fiat. And then you're saying, oh, yes. I can use my credit card. I can do chargebacks.
I am comparing it to fiat.
I can get a new one. There are so many great conveniences that centralization provides.
Yes.
Bitcoin isn't and shouldn't try to replace that. It should try to provide whatever, utility it can through being exactly what those things aren't. Being decentralized.
So we were talking about this other day because like I was saying that Bitcoin should be PayPal, and you're like, no, Bitcoin shouldn't be PayPal.
No, and I explained to you why, and you understood, I think, right?
I almost forgot. I forgot though. So,
I mean, it's basically what we're already talking about. PayPal, just from a strict efficiency aspect, Bitcoin has a lot of redundancy. So anything, let's just for argument, I'll just say everything that PayPal has to do, Bitcoin has to do 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So how could it ever be as cheap as PayPal or as efficient as PayPal? And especially if it has to do everything redundantly. It has to have a bunch of, you have to verify transactions with your own node. You have to have mining. You have proof of work. You have all this stuff built around making Bitcoin work. That's good. That literally makes it expensive. And the redundancy aspect is just fundamentally something you can never overcome. It's always going to have to do something more times than PayPal has. So it's always going to be more secure and more expensive. And that's the whole point.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So you just have to keep it like that in that way.
Like Bitcoin
it's just not
fees,
for that.
I want Bitcoin fees to be as cheap as possible, but I also think that Bitcoin fees will never exceed what people are willing to pay to send Bitcoins. So I'm not really worried about it either.
That's interesting though. I don't know. I feel like people get burned then. I don't know if that resentment's good for the
well,
community.
it's like this supports your argument also, because what happens if the Bitcoin fees do get too high and the market doesn't correct?
Yeah.
People will just move to use other coins to transact because the fees
Yes.
will be cheaper, and then the market will correct. Then Bitcoin will say, "Oh, SegWit will get activated." Or the thing is, the problem with this New York agreement is all the people that are making arguments to do this, they're not really making a good faith effort of justifying or quantifying, how this actually makes Bitcoin better and how it doesn't affect things negatively. They're just saying, we want it, we're compromising, we want you to compromise, you have no choice. We're going to call our thing Bitcoin as if we have any excuse to be able to do so. But it's not Bitcoin. It's facsimile. Anyway.
Okay, I think I guess that, I don't know. To me, it's just that I feel, I guess I voice these opinions. Just that I don't feel that the community is as intrinsic as, is as altruistic as possible. You know what I mean? Like they're not really necessarily looking out for the community as much as themselves, the developers.
Some are, some aren't. There are definitely a lot of different types of people in Bitcoin. A lot of them just out to make a buck. A lot of them are out to scam.
Yeah, and I feel that
a lot of them only love it because money. It's not ridiculous notion.
I feel like a lot of the people that say that they're not out to scam sometimes do blame the other people of scamming, whereas they're actually either they just don't realize they were scamming also.
Well, Bitcoin does have a weird effect of like turning into a hypocrite if you're not careful. Like,
yeah.
You really have to always be working with Bitcoin and not trying to exploit Bitcoin. The minute you start like projecting what you think something should be, or you start saying Bitcoin has a plan or that it's supposed to be a certain way, you probably end up giving yourself more trouble than you're giving Bitcoin.
But that just, to me, it's like, if you have a certain idea, like we understand what's good about Bitcoin and what we want it to do, and we also, I feel like we do understand to some degree what's bad about it. And there's probably, I don't know if there's other ways to go about fixing. Maybe that's just not other ways to go fixing that.
What's bad about Bitcoin? Tell me what's bad about Bitcoin.
Well, like we said, like it's not PayPal. Like if you could be PayPal and also super redundant, it would be better.
Okay, so that's what they're attempting to do.
Yeah,
that was the whole. Yeah, like SegWit literally provides the ability for exponential scaling. Like you can start layering on Lightning networks. And have you read about Lightning Network at all?
I don't really understand even exactly what SegWit does or any of this shit. Segregated witness. I don't really understand what that means.
It'll be too in the weeds, and I'm not an expert on it either. But essentially, Lightning Network, it provides an ability to have transactions that happen off of the chain but are still secured by the chain and still verifiable. So you can kind of get into this like super state or hyper state, whatever the term is, of transactions. Like for example, we could have it so everybody using Exotica was tipping each other and it was all verifiable on the chain, and that Exotica didn't have custody of these Bitcoins to be able to steal them from our customers. You could do all your tipping. The model could get all the tips, and then they could settle out. They could leave the Lightning channel, go back to Bitcoin, and settle everything all at once. And all those transactions that happened were still on the blockchain, but not on the blockchain. You understand? And so they provide certain privacy aspects.
So then what?
It
doesn't really matter. Okay, yeah.
But the thing is that this comes at an extra cost when you compare it to a centralized, like the way we do it now. The way we do it now is you put the Bitcoins into our Bitcoin wallet. We allocate them to your account as centralized database tokens, and you tip them that way, and then we reallocate when people withdraw when they make profits.
Yeah, there's one wallet, and then you have a secret database.
But it's all one wallet. It's all centralized, and then we could quote unquote take the money and run if we wanted. But so in order to have the added functionality of Lightning and the added functionality of having all these transactions be verifiable on the chain, even in this like super state, you're going to pay more than you would pay if you didn't do it. But you will pay a lot less than you would pay if you did it on the chain now. Does that make sense?
No, repeat that one more time.
it's always going to be more expensive than being like PayPal or being centralized. Like the way we do Exotica now, we manage people's allocations in a database.
Yeah.
But if we have to change that to Lightning, there's still going to be an added cost because you still are getting the benefit of the network. It's not may not necessarily be a cost that we charge you. It'll just be that that these transactions will ultimately have some cost, and there's the cost of providing this channel, and so it'll be more expensive than what we're doing now. But Lightning transactions will be super. Much less expensive than if you just send a normal Bitcoin transaction. So
I mean,
that's
but
why
theoretically, you could do what you do with Coinbase.
because we want the scaling method because we want people to be able to do more transactions that are verifiable, because we want people to be able to do low fee things. It enables more use cases for Bitcoin.
But like, why couldn't you just use a service like Coinbase? Like Coinbase is basically just a database that has 1 or 2, maybe 10 wallets.
Because Coinbase will close your account if you send the wrong Bitcoins to it.
Exactly. Okay. So yeah. So that's just the centralization. So you're just worried about the traffic you're getting.
It's more about, so Lightning allows exponential scaling in a way, and you can just keep daisy chaining these kind of scaling methods, and they have side chains, and and if you use these New York agreement companies, they're saying they want to do this to scale. They're saying that like core developers have been blocking scaling by not letting us fork, but really they're not even implementing SegWit, man. Like only like 10% of transactions or something are SegWit transactions right now, and the fees are so much cheaper. So they're like literally being hypocrites. They're wasting all their time doing agreements and shit when they could just be implementing SegWit across all of their products and be saving all kinds of money and having cheaper transactions right now.
But that would like seize their argument. So then, like, why do that? Because then they can't.
Maybe that's why. I don't know. But it's certainly shitty, right?
Yeah. Okay. So MYA is SegWit 2x.
Yes.
And then Bitcoin Cash is just fucking random shit that Roger Ver made up.
Kinda. What happened? So I was trying to tell this history, right, of talking about how Bitmain was blocking SegWit, and that's how that led to the New York agreement.
Okay.
Well, somewhere in there came UASF, and UASF was Bitcoin's way of recognizing that relying on the miners to activate SegWit wasn't going to work, and recognizing that users actually wanted SegWit even though miners wouldn't give it to them, and that they were going to win. So they basically made it so on a certain date, if miners didn't signal SegWit and support for SegWit, if they didn't essentially activate it, that they would just ignore the blocks that miners were submitting. And this really helped people understand and redefine the actual relationship between miners and the network, because previously a lot of people thought that it was miners that got to decide, and miners that had control, and hash power that has control. People in the New York agreement still believe this for the most part. But really, it's the users that have control, because it's the users that hold and it's the users that buy. And it's miners acting like service providers. They're basically creating and selling blocks. And it's nodes that are the consumers. They're the ones that want these blocks. They want to be able to verify their transaction. And
this is going over my head a bit.
The miners are paid for this service. They get block rewards. They get transaction fees. They're paid for what they do. They're not actual people that get to decide where Bitcoin's value comes from. That's the users. So anyway, the users wanted SegWit. They made a UASF version of Bitcoin, and this kind of was like it forced the miners basically to have to activate SegWit. But what happened was the New York agreement came right at the kind of crux of this, and they tried to like make it seem like the New York agreement is what activated SegWit. They didn't want the UASF to cause it. They didn't want it to cause a chain split. They were really worried it was going to cause a chain split and there was going to be problems. But really, all that happened was it was the perfect tool, and it forced miners to activate SegWit. Even if they want to say that New York agreement helped or whatever, it still happened the way it happened. And because when UASF was kind of came out, the miners like made this like blog post saying, "Oh, if UASF does this and there's a chain split, then we're just going to make a real fork, and we're going to release our." They just like warned everybody that they were going to make a real fork, and this is ultimately what turned into Bitcoin Cash. Even though SegWit, the New York agreement did happen, and the miners did activate SegWit under whether it was reality or under the guise of the New York agreement, they still decided to do the fork anyway. So that was Bitcoin Cash. And Bitcoin Cash is just, Roger Ver coin, basically. It's Ver and Jahan trying to get people to buy into their scam.
Allegedly.
And liberate them from their Bitcoins.
Okay, so and they're succeeding at that. Like, the more that they mine the Bitcoin Cash, which is apparently right now more valuable than Bitcoin as far as mining goes, like, you'll make more money per electricity spent than you will on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, that all depends on who's buying it. If it's just Roger Ver buying it, he's going to run out of money eventually, right? They need actual buyers.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But if he's probably not the one buying it. I mean, they're probably converting. I mean, that probably also exists still in Bitcoin too.
It isn't Bitcoin buying. We all sold our Bitcoin Cash. Yeah, there are some traders speculating on shit, but Bitcoin Cash does not have like a user market, of a deep market of people that just want to buy Bitcoin Cash and hold it and buy Bitcoin Cash and spend it and use it for anonymity or whatever purpose, or any purpose. I just don't think it's really there. Everybody has holds in Bitcoin.
So whoever's buying it right now is just complete retards.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there's going to be pumps. Play the waves like any trader, you'll do okay. But most people are going to, most people don't win when they trade. So you're just funding the upper 10% of traders, or whatever, probably 20%, and 80% of them are funding the gains. So it's still gambling for most people.
Okay.
Unless you're a professional.
Unless you're a professional like me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So Bitcoin Cash is just the miners going, hey, look it. We have power in this whole thing, and this is what we can do.
Yeah, it's a miner coin, and I can make arguments. I've mentioned before on shows. There are some arguments to why miners might do this. Like, they're also the guys making these chips and making these mining machines, and so
yeah, exactly.
They have incentive to have a deep market for SHA-256 mining, and for some reason there was never really popular coins that you could mine using the same hashing algorithm as Bitcoin. Everybody always wanted to differentiate, and which I always thought was a little bit funny, because it's like, oh, we want to be incompatible with the most used mining algorithm, but they wanted to differentiate. They wanted people, to be able to attract other miners that weren't already interested in Bitcoin. And now there's coins that people can mine. There's going to be Bitcoin Cash that you can mine using the same miners. There's going to be SegWit 2x that you can mine, and there will be inefficiencies in those markets and their difficulty. So miners will be able to shave some cream by hopping back and forth between these Bitcoins.
I feel like you're going to see these forks correlate with the developmental efforts of these ASIC companies, realizing that they can't make chips that are either like using less electricity or more powerful than the ones they already have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
you'll
sure there
see
will be
forks
bottlenecks in the efficiency game,
Like next year, you'll probably see new ASICs, whereas this year is like, fuck, we can't make new ASICs that are really going to be cost effective yet because the development just costs too much. So let's just fucking make a fork. Let's just put money in forking.
I don't know. I don't know that much about. I know that there will be bottlenecks in technology advancement, and if
we're at one right now, which is interesting. So, and there's a lot of problems with solid state technology. Like right now, solid state technology is very, very expensive, which is another reason why like these graphics cards are kind of interesting, and maybe there might be an argument why it's a more secure form of mining, just because like there is a very heavy.
How funny is it that like cryptocurrency has become something that affects the stock value of AMD and Nvidia?
Well,
so funny.
I don't know if that's necessarily. People are arguing that it's not the mining because it's really not even that much. It's more so the SSD prices, which uses they use the same shit, but it's really SSDs that are driving up the market, not the memory, which is what the graphics cards use.
Oh no, I just mean that in general, cryptocurrency enthusiasts and miners have significantly affected the bottom line of companies like AMD.
I don't know.
There are like articles and shit where they talk about like if there's a downturn in cryptocurrency mining interest, it would affect their sales. And
AMD and Intel are coming out and saying that.
I don't know about Intel, but I'm pretty sure AMD.
I'd be surprised to see any publication that actually says that from like directly from Lisa Su, whatever her name is, it says, "Oh yeah, our company's heavily influenced by the mining." Like I know it's somebody
they're making a lot of money off.
Of course, but I doubt that they would come out and say that. I don't think any of these companies.
They would acknowledge that it's an aspect of their market. Of course they would. They have shareholders. They have to answer to them. All it takes is somebody asking the question.
Maybe. Because then you're talking about two separate things now. Are we making graphics cards or are we making mining machines?
They're making both now, aren't they?
Who, AMD?
AMD, and now NVIDIA wants to make, aren't they making ones that's mining specific?
It's not mining specific. So it's literally, there's a problem with the GDDR5X and GDDR5. The X has a latency issue, which is bad for mining, whereas it's good for things like VR in some instances. So what they did is this year they released basically...
I could swear I read articles talking about NVIDIA specifically making units for mining.
It's the 1070 Ti. It's the 1070 Ti that it came out recently. It's basically a 1080. It's the same chip. It's a little bit smaller than a 1080 chip, but it has the same memory as a 1070. If you compare mining of a 1070 and a 1080, which costs about $200 more expensive, they mine pretty much about the same. So it doesn't make any sense why you do that. But the 1070 has a smaller chip on it by default. So what they did is just put a 1080 chip in with the 1070 memory, and that's what they released this year. So it's not necessarily, it's actually really good for gaming too. It's a great graphics card all around. It's a really good price. It's great for, it's fucking great. NVIDIA is like on top of their shit right now. But also Intel and AMD just came out with a new, I don't know if they made this announcement, but I kept seeing it all over fucking like MSNBC that Intel and AMD are going to do some shit. And this was leaked a couple months ago too, that Intel was going to do something with Vega. So
see, look at that link I just gave you.
Where is it?
AMD CEO sees leveling off in cryptocurrency mining demand.
Okay.
So you literally have the CEO commenting on cryptocurrency mining demand.
This is from CoinDesk. Okay. All right. Lisa Su. All right. That's basically what I asked for. When did this come out? October 20th. This is fairly recent too. I haven't really heard her say anything. In terms of headwinds, we're also predicting that there will be some leveling off of the cryptocurrency. I wonder why she says that.
Yeah, so look, so somebody in the Exotica saying there are specific mining cards. They don't have display ports. So they're specifically making GPUs for processing.
Wait. Yeah, but that's not for mining. That's for server video card shit. That's just if you're making like a fucking Pixar movie, that's what you use.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's no like if someone can link. This doesn't exist, but if someone can link an AMD specific GPU, I'd fucking like I'd be like, what the fuck? How do I not know about this? And how come like this isn't news? Because that's different.
Here we go. Look, we got a link. Let me see.
He's probably talking about not the Vega, but the it's the same shit as the Vega, but
new AMD graphics card sells out in minutes amid crypto mining boom. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, the 64 and the 56.
Vega 56.
Yeah, that's a consumer GPU. Oh, I took it out of the bait before the fish was hooked. No. I'm not hating on you, bro. And I'm not looking at the chat, but I just, that's not, I don't think, no, I'm not you, the guy that's talking on the channel. I just don't think that's accurate, what he's saying.
He says they are for mining. It even states it in the name of the card itself.
What, Vega means mining?
No, there's probably some slogan or something. Let me see.
I know they have a mining BIOS, but it's not a mining specific chip. Like if it was a mining specific chip, it would be like an ASIC. Like it would be like this is specifically for fucking Kryptonite, or this is specifically for fucking Zcash, Equihash, whatever it's called.
Page. All right. So I'm on the page for the Vega. It says experience high performance gaming with Radeon RX Vega and Radeon FreeSync technology.
And it has a mining BIOS. I know that. Like you can actually, there's a mining mode on those cards. And in fact, anybody listening on here,
I mean, all right, fine. So what? Why wouldn't they make it multi-purpose then? The point is, they are definitely directly, catering.
The only reason why they're okay, no, but now let's backtrack.
They are directly monitored.
No. The only reason why they're multi-purpose is because of the algorithm that's chosen. And this is my argument against Bitcoin. We don't need to fucking use SHA-256. Just like you don't need to use any of these algorithms. The algorithm is chosen at the beckon of the developers. Like the only reason why the AMD cards, those AMD cards are good for specific things is because those algorithms that they're using.
Before. I don't think the algorithm actually matters that much.
It matters 100%.
A good algorithm, it doesn't matter which one. Even if you change the algorithm, I think it's a waste of time because no matter where you have the most value on a blockchain, miners are going to get bigger and bigger and just figure out the most efficient way to make hardware for that algorithm.
No, but that costs money. See, this is the thing, though, because look, you're not going to be able to compete with something like if AMD is producing Vega chips, right, that work for all graphics card processing.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very difficult for another company all of a sudden to make a card because they don't have that financial backing that works just for Kryptonite.
But you're just moving the centralization problem from Bitmain to AMD.
But you can also
you don't fix anything. You're just moving it around. If you want to fix it, somebody's gonna have to come up with a better design. Changing the algorithm.
I don't know about that. Because you already have market. You have at least 4 people in the market right now that can compete with GPUs. You have AMD, you have Intel, you have Nvidia, and now you have Rockchip, or whoever.
No, what we really want for centralization with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general is we want people like building new chip fabrication facilities in other parts of the world. We want people making mining machines in other parts of the world. That's really where we want.
I don't think that matters.
Things go.
Like I don't want ASICs. Like ASICs are stupid.
It does matter because China could fucking nuke Bitcoin mining as it stands right now.
Good. Fuck Bitcoin mining. And you know what?
It won't kill Bitcoin, but it would be but we want as little disruption as possible.
Here's the thing:
right?
if you kill Ethereum mining, everybody still has a GPU they can fucking resell for whatever the hell they want to use it for. If they want, they can go fucking help Gridcoin out with their stupid fucking like calculations on like bone marrow transplants or whatever.
If China killed mining, then Bitcoin would look a lot more like how you want it to look because all of a sudden people would be able to mine with GPUs.
My argument for one is that ASICs are kind of like SHA-256 in itself is kind of stupid. I would actually argue that Gridcoin is probably the best idea as far as like redeeming a currency for calculations because like there's actually like scientific shit being calculated embedded into the calculation.
I bet you that it's less efficient than specifically hashing for that purpose. I bet you there's something stupid.
But you
did this before. We had Prime Coin and we had coin.
But you can vary. If the network varies, you can have different miners on it that perform different operations. In fact, with Gridcoin, it's interesting because you can assign your graphics card. I think it's stupid because it centralizes basically what's value to what and what deems value. But I'm just saying that like the idea is better to me than like Bitcoin. Like the idea of actually using useful calculations in hashing a block makes more sense than random stupid SHA-256 just for no reason. And like let's buy the fucking best ASICs we can just to mine this.
The idea that killing 2 birds with 1 stone with hashing is obviously a great idea. You know, like but whether or not the implementation of this specific thing you're talking about is a worthy implementation of that idea.
No, I'm not saying. I said Bitcoin. I'm making fun of Gridcoin, but also saying it's a good. Like I think it's a great idea what they're trying to implement. I think Gridcoin itself is not done correctly.
Yeah, so
no one's going to argue
that. It probably reflects that it might not be able to be done correctly.
But I think there's something there. And my point is that, like, SHA-256, like, now you just have a bunch of, like, you're creating this whole new secondary industry that, like, you really could have just solved by changing the algorithm. Like, we didn't need ASICs ever. We could have just changed the algorithm. And now, here's a good point of this. Bitcoin Gold did that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, look, but Bitcoin Gold is a piece of shit, like, fucking development process. You can't even, like, get the node running. My point is that it's not impossible to do this. No one's making this argument.
It does require a fork, as far as I know. They may.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fork it. Yeah. Well, I don't. I mean, why would they want to do that? You're not gonna find like all the miners in China are not gonna be like, you know what? It's a good idea. We should actually make it so GTX 1080 Ti's are the best best way to mine our shit. Let's get rid of these ASICs.
It might still be okay though. I mean, Bitcoin only ever has to be decentralized enough. A blockchain in general, like we talked about in the beginning, only has to be decentralized enough for what you're using it for. Bitcoin, even with the centralization aspect as it stands, it's still the most secure.
Anybody can mine Bitcoin if it was with the GPU. Fucking no one can mine Bitcoin.
This was Satoshi's dream.
ASICs.
Right? He wanted one CPU, one vote. You know.
That's something else too. Like this is more the reason why we should be playing Eve when we do this, because like Eve has the same issues where it's like you have botting issues, so it's like it kind of like changes the whole economy and everything like that. But yeah, like I kind of agree with Satoshi on this, that like when you're making this currency in the first place, the whole like the reasons behind it were like, let's make it so like everybody has access, guys. Like let's give everybody a fair shot. And then they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's fucking mine with our GPU so nobody else has any. You know what I mean? Here's
what we actually learned is that perfect decentralization, one, it might not even be possible, and two, it might not even be ideal. And there are advantages to having pockets of centralization within a network or ecosystem or anything like that. And in my opinion, all progress, all success begets centralization. It probably will be that on some timeline, Bitcoin becomes, in some aspects that are too centralized, where parts of it or break or entirely breaks. I think it's a natural phenomenon for things to grow, and that means centralize. So, but the concept of it being perfectly decentralized was probably never this one CPU, one vote, and I don't know that we want it, and I don't know that like it's just, you're always going to have efficiencies gained by centralization that will provide advantages over those that are not.
Look, I'm not going to say that it's not fine to have. Like
if it was one CPU, one vote, then we could, whoever could get the most CPUs the cheapest ends up being able to have power, right?
You could, yeah, exactly.
It's the same. It's the same situation.
I agree. But here's the thing, though. Like the Bitcoin development isn't being really affected by like Nvidia and Intel's like shit, and maybe that would change if it were the case. But like Nvidia, Intel, AMD, all these companies exist. Let me just finish this off. Like all those companies, like existed beforehand, and they already had like their motives beforehand. Like all this, this Bitcoin technology, if it like adhered to that more so, it would be less like Bitcoin itself would be less at risk for like manipulation and influence by like itself. Like Bitcoin development and Bitmain development are like very closely linked. Like we can't, like we're kind of steering away from this. So like when you say like, decentralization, there's not much decentralization in Bitcoin development at all when you think about it.
Well,
like it has to support. Yes, basically, you have two parties. Yes. Like there's the people that use Bitcoin currently, and there's the people that mine Bitcoin. Like those are the two parties you have to kind of like really worry about when you're kind of making these decisions. That's kind of what you just said. But like if you're really trying to attract new people or people that don't already have access to it, it's not really a fair playing field.
When did it become?
Why, like, how is Bitcoin gonna like really like maintain value if people aren't use it?
Because
why is Bitcoin relevant if people aren't gonna people besides the people that use it already don't use it?
There's a big difference between making your goal to have a product or a service or a network be as useful as possible, and in the idea of getting more people to use it. These are way two different concepts to me. And I don't think I don't like the idea.
I'm not trying to get people to use it. I'm just saying people can't use it.
This is how Coinbase and these guys are thinking. They're thinking we want to get more people to use this. We want to make it compete with. We want to make it cheap. We want to make it centralized. It's not about you can't like say.
I'm not trying to make it cheap or centralized. I'm just trying to say that like it doesn't like it's already heavily influenced by the industry that is Bitcoin and the development process, which is supposed to be completely separate from Bitcoin,
so let me
are
give
linked.
UASF, the thing that actually probably got SegWit activated, was not something that came from Bitcoin Core developers. It was done by an outside party, and people and users adopted it, and users cooperated.
How do you know that?
To make it happen.
Who's giving them that information? It's got to be someone who's like deep into the code. You have to understand the intricacies of like what's going on with like the community. Core development doesn't necessarily mean like the 110 people that are like signed up.
You're missing the point, man. It probably was a core developer that made the UASF software. And he just probably used a different name, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it within the core framework. He floated it on his own, and it wasn't core developers that got it implemented. It was users that installed that software and chose to implement it because they wanted fucking SegWit.
Because they're told that SegWit's a good way to do it.
And it is.
Yeah, but it's also like it's also being developed with like
the people,
certain people in mind.
I've managed to find people that I trust to be able to assess things. To be people that are programmers. For example, like my partner RaoDB. He's a fucking Bitcoin genius, like I know that I can get the real I can, yeah, I know that I can get the real skinny on something if I just have him sit down with me and look at it, and explain it to me. And I can ask the abstract questions so I understand the concepts, and he can justify what the real deal is with these things. And it's not, and the real deal isn't always exactly as Core says, or isn't always exactly as as bad as somebody else makes it seem. It's just there's always in the end complete truth in the code, and he just spits it out that way.
Truth in the code. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to talk about, because like truth in the code, that to me is a little debatable, because like we've already seen instances where it has been kind of manipulated, and certain people will kind of benefit from that. Like,
but it was resilient to it.
It was resilient, but so what exactly? So nothing happened. So no one.
This is what I mean by having decentralized enough. Like, in other words, there's an advantage to having Bitcoin Core. We get some efficiency out of having a cooperative process where people from all over the world can work on Bitcoin, and there can be a curation of these submissions to make sure that only the best submissions and the submissions that everybody wants end up getting put in the actual Git. And then that Git is completely voluntary. Whether you install the version of Bitcoin they float is up to you. And some people have chosen to run alternatives. And if you run one that's incompatible, then you fork.
Okay, so wait, with the SegWit shit and ASIC boost and Bitmain, no one ended up benefiting like more so than anyone else with that situation at any point?
The users benefited the most because they got upgraded Bitcoin. We added new rules to enable.
But there's no
SegWit.
specific sect of miners that were mining more efficiently than other miners because of the technology that they were using.
Before SegWit, yeah, but after, either less or not at all. In the end, the mining manufacturing is very centralized. So even if there aren't efficiencies that in the technology, they already exploit their monopoly by doing things like they'll print the chips, mine with them for 3 months, increase the difficulty, put those chips in machines, sell those machines as state of the art.
Yeah.
And now all the miners they sell to are having to mine at the higher difficulty that they just created.
You're not going to have that with like AMD and Intel. I mean, that's like sorry to go back to that, but like that is one of like. That would be an argument for Intel and AMD that like you're not going to see that. You're not going to see them like we're going to sit on these GPUs because like fucking
we'll see.
They're going to be worth more.
Bitcoin's getting very valuable, and it's becoming it's been less risky to to open up farms. I know people that are opening up farms in Canada and stuff, and they're putting big money into it, and they've made money mining, and they feel like they'll continue to be able to do so.
I agree. So I don't think that they're wrong.
The more this grows, eventually AMD and these other chip makers will start making very specific mining ASICs, and they will compete because they will be able to make money doing so.
But like, I don't think but that doesn't make any sense though to me, because like these shit coins don't use specific. How does it
not make sense?
Because they're not using one algorithm. All these shit coins use many different type algorithms. The reason why the GPUs are good is because they can adapt very quickly.
That's only because that was the lowest friction way for AMD to get its feet in the water. AMD didn't even have to try. Right? People just multi-purposed something they were making for a completely different purpose. They lucked out. Now they got to see access to what that market value is. They're gonna more and more start going towards making actual Bitcoin mining specific machines.
Perhaps.
I will bet you on this.
Perhaps. I mean, and the thing is that like they have the technology, but like I think you might see some communities be resilient to that.
Communities don't get to decide what people, what's resilient.
Or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe there'd be more
people that want to buy it, money out that wants a product, and people make that product, it will sell. That's,
maybe. I don't know. I would be particularly resilient to it just because I don't see the purpose in ASICs necessarily. Like I don't see the intrinsic purpose in ASICs besides the fact that they're trying to solve hashing algorithms, but I think that can be solved by changing your algorithm or forking an algorithm every so often. And maybe like that's a bad decision to have, or maybe if you could do it with a software, it could be better. But like I think that like that's a software issue, not a hardware issue.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that the design of Bitcoin is pretty damn good, and we keep saying it being resilient to all these like even its weaknesses and its pockets of centralization. It still finds ways to, remind us that it will do what it needs to do when it has to do it.
I feel like that's saying like, look at my version of Mario is really good, and you have to buy like the newest version of the Nintendo to fucking run it.
No, that's what the New York agreement is. They're saying
that's what all of them are. They're all that.
Yeah, but it's already good. It's already great.
That's what it's not. It's not. I mean, whatever. I get what you're saying. It's useful.
Like,
everybody can use it. Anybody can use it, and you can do so much with it.
You can do cheap transactions on Bitcoin right now.
Not really.
Yes, you can. You can do if you use.
If I have no money, if I'm from Venezuela and I have zero money and I want to put all my money in Bitcoin, I have to use Doge.
We only use SegWit, and so if you make a deposit, whether it's through Shapeshift from a shitcoin or directly to us, when you make a deposit with us, you only have to use like, I don't know, 15 cents for a fee.
That's not bad.
All that to have the power of Bitcoin, the security of Bitcoin, permissionlessness of Bitcoin. You just have to fucking get with the program.
Yo.
And there are a lot of people that haven't, and it's because it's serving their narrative, like you said.
Yeah.
Which means they're trying to float a product. And I hope they get in trouble for it.
I guess maybe what I'm asking may be impossible. It's like I want the
Of course, I think that is the problem. I think that
the moral good coin.
You want like two sides of the pole, you know?
I don't see what the big fuss is when like it's so clear that like everybody is so easily influenced. Like, you don't know shit about, like, you don't really understand shit about, I don't mean this like a personal thing, but, like, you don't understand, like, the Bitcoin code, but you're like, yeah, I'm really down with it. It makes a lot of sense. Even though it's not really regulated and fucking, you know, fuck it.
Yeah,
fuck it up.
But that was something I committed to the moment I installed Bitcoin the first time.
That's fine. And I'm not saying that's necessarily even wrong with that, but, like, I don't know. I just don't know if, like, I'm going to be the one that says, hey, you know what, man, this Bitcoin thing really is changing the world right now. Because if I want to, like, I can do X, Y, and Z that's, you know, pretty much illegal. But I couldn't do that if I didn't have Bitcoin. Like, that's like, I don't know if, like, that's really, like, I want to make my fight, like, that's worth $8,000 to me. You're buying drug money. You're just saying, look at these people use drug money. This is the only way they can do this. And I'm gonna buy some of it. I'm gonna take some of it away from them.
Would you agree that Bitcoin right now is the most valuable blockchain?
I don't know what that fucking means. What does that mean? What's
I don't know. What's valuable to you?
What's value in the blockchain? I don't know.
What is market value? It could be security. It could be decentralization. It could be store of value. It could be all those things.
I don't know. I don't know how it was originally decided that, like, hey, man, like, I'm going to put a hit out on this guy and it's shit. I'm going to give you this, and this is going to mean something one day, right?
It's actually a really easy question. It literally is. That's
it is. I mean, it's at the most blockchains. Yeah, it's the most valuable, but I don't know necessarily, like, if I really want to even.
I just think I just think you're not confident.
They're all fucking like worthless.
I think you feel like it's.
Like zero is equal.
Worth the most, and that's not true.
No, yeah, they're worth the most, but I don't know if I'm really down with this. Like, this is worth. Like, this is good technology because it's a lot of money.
I think you are down with it.
If I was down with it, I'd be fucking rolling in it right now, and that's why. And maybe I'm sour. I don't think I'm sour thour. Like, honestly, if do I sound sour? Do I? Maybe
I don't know,
trying to be honest. Like, do I sound sour?
Do you have regrets?
If I honestly, like, now that I understand a little bit of what just fucking happened with forks, I wish I had Bitcoin 2 months ago. Yeah, obviously, like, everybody fucking does. Like, if I had Bitcoin before all these forks and I like knew how to trade and all this shit, yeah, I'd be fucking like.
How high does Bitcoin have to go before you decide to some?
This has all just been a learning experience for me. Like, I'm still taking notes. I'm pretty much a noob when it comes down to this. Like, I come to Bitcoin for like a month, I fucking like make some jokes, and then I leave for 6 months, and then I come back and like that's it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how much of an involvement I have with it. I don't have any business that relies on Bitcoin, like, except for the fucking Monero apparel shit. But like, that doesn't like that's not like that's not gonna change anything in my life. You know what I mean? That's a joke. But for other people, I understand how,
if you decide something is a joke beforehand, then it's never going to be more of a joke.
I mean, it's like, I take it seriously, but it's not, you know, I mean, no one's, I don't need, it's not going to change anybody's life having that material out there, you know what I mean? Like, whereas Bitcoin can change people's lives. I get it. Like, you can.
It's changed everybody's life. I mean, Bitcoin consumes most of the people that are interested in it.
But really, couldn't you have used something like, else also technically. Like people were using other, like something could come along and replace it. Other people were using things that were more,
But why does
that were
this matter
less
so
less
much?
good.
Why is it so important to you to like convey this message over and over and over?
Because I just don't see why everybody's like,
there's other things that are more important.
people are saying like, oh, I'm just not like woed by like, oh, like this shit's worth a lot of money, now I need to buy it, and like it's just gonna keep going up and up and up because like this drug money's valuable. Like, yeah, it's gonna be valuable, like, but what are you buying a stake into and why? And I don't understand like the reasoning behind it for most people.
Well, then hopefully our talks will help you understand, because I think there's a lot of reasons, and I think that when you're enthusiast and you follow all the news and all the updates and all the goings on of watching Bitcoin grow over the past years, it just becomes more and more obvious that the only thing really to do is just hold them. Like, it's like, man, this is like, there's so many people that don't understand, and even the people that do think they understand don't even understand. We have so much more to grow, and it's so much. This is going to provide such a utility. When I mention things about store of value, and I mention, hedging against inflation, and there's so much function and utility that this is going to provide to people, that it's silly to worry about whether you bought, 5% or 10% higher or lower than you could have. It's just,
but like that's like kind of being ignorant of like the current situation of things.
I
like,
feel
like,
way more safe holding Bitcoins than I do holding. So I'll tell you that.
But then holding what you said?
Than stocks.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no, I to some degree I would understand that. I wouldn't say maybe a stock like Netflix would be a good thing, or like maybe a stock like Amazon would necessarily be something comparable.
Well, Amazon's done
like,
really well. A lot of stuff Bitcoin, but nowhere near the pace of Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, over the last like fucking like 2 months, but that's also
2 years, man. Like, Bitcoin has been on a tear.
It was like $200 like a year ago, or like a year and a half ago.
That was 2 years ago.
Whatever, that's what I'm saying though. Like before that, it's not on a tear. It's just like fucking.
I'm
like,
saying that there's a difference between a bubble and just continued appreciation.
This is the fucking definition of a bubble. Like is the definition.
There will be retraces.
Exaggerated definition of a bubble.
But you're nuts. You're nuts if you think Bitcoin is going to go to $1,000 again.
I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know.
Maybe on a wick on some panic, dumping from some fork bullshit.
Maybe.
But,
and maybe I'll buy some then. Maybe honestly, that's probably when I'll buy some.
We're not going to spend another year like we did in 2015, where everybody was just worried if Bitcoin would ever be worth 1,000 again.
I guess. This is like people are like really coming out of it now. They're like, oh man, I feel like I'm relieved because Bitcoin's over 1,000 now. Like it's like what we all thought it was gonna do. I was so worried about Bitcoin until the value went up, and now I'm not worried about it anymore.
Yeah,
it's like,
and the more the value goes up,
I don't know if that should matter.
It does. It makes people feel more safe holding. It allows more liquidity. It allows more savings.
But that's just like holdings. That just means like
it's just more foundation to build on.
It's just more of the Ponzi. It's just this Ponziing it up right now.
Okay, I mean, look, one of my favorite jokes I used to have in my fucking background for Twitter was I called Bitcoin Ponzi for the people.
It is.
And the difference is that a Ponzi does end up, raping people and taking the money from new investors and paying it out to old ones. And Bitcoin, in a way, has as well. But there's no head to this Ponzi. Everybody has the same. It's like the same. Risk,
okay, I guess, and that's
they get to choose their level of exposure.
I'm reluctant to say this or to submit that. Like, I think that Bitcoin, as far as market value goes, is probably more easily manipulated than most people in the Bitcoin community would submit. Like, I just talked about with John this morning about this. Like, because he says something.
Tell me one thing that it's more manipulated.
What's that? One more time.
What? Like, compare it to something. You keep saying it's more manipulated than people think, but more manipulated than what? Like, what isn't manipulated? What is manipulated to the next degree that's acceptable for you?
I just don't really see where this money's being or used. So it's like it's easy to just hold on to it. It's so easy to just to have
what's wrong with
Bitcoin
holding
and it all be mine and it look like it's a lot of people. I can set
Do you
up
have
an
a problem with,
application
people
that looks
holding
like I'm
dollars?
trading, 10,000 wallets, and it's really just one computer. So it's not difficult to really like simulate
Why? Let me tell me
market
this.
transactions with Bitcoin, specifically because it's a digital
Why do you
currency.
want to hold dollars? Why do you want to hold dollars? Why do you want to collect dollars?
I don't want to hold any money. I'd rather have the things that I think are going to be useful for me in the future. I'd rather make investments. I'd rather have debt. Let's put it like that.
Well,
but I can't really have debt in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is an investment.
I could go into debt from having Bitcoin, but I can't really have debt in Bitcoin. So there's not really like
you don't want Bitcoin debt. Trust me.
You can't have it. You can't really have it.
You don't want to lend Bitcoin, and you don't want to borrow Bitcoin, and you really don't want to short Bitcoin unless you really know what you're doing.
I'm just saying though, but like as far as like the world development process goes, like people are making money off of Bitcoin, but it's not like whatever. I mean, maybe Bitcoin development is somehow calculated with GDP. I don't know, but like I don't know if that's really creating wealth or just transferring wealth or whatever.
I think it will like wealth will move from other pair. There's only the pie is only so big. If we're talking about the whole world economy, there's only going to be so much value that goes in certain places. But I do think a lot of it is still going to move to Bitcoin. I think there's a lot more that will move to Bitcoin. I do think it provides a lot of utility. I do think it's a great,
let's just get this out then. Like, what do you think is really going to happen? I think we're probably going to see it like hover in this 3,000 range and then probably go back down under 1,000 at some point.
3,000 range, we're at 7,000.
I mean, it's going to go back down to that, and then like I know, but so it's going to go back down to like 3,000 or so to like where it was, and then it's going to go back. It's going to be like a slow decline again.
I mean, I do some charting, and I could chart it and whatever, talk about what lows could be, but I think this has been a long bull run, and I think that it's going to take some time for people to capitulate, and like we're going to have to break down slowly, kind of like we did on the first time. Like when we went to 1,200 or whatever, we crashed hard, and then we bounced hard, and then we crashed hard, and then we kind of leveled off, and everybody thought, oh, we're in the 600s and 800s, everything's going to be okay, and then it just kept falling and falling and falling and falling, and that was really where the capitulation. It kept knocking people in the knees and then we took a whole year in the 200s, and then finally it recovered. So we could see something like that again, especially if there's like a downturn in interest, but it's kind of like a snowballing thing. I have a feeling that it's going to be hard to take away some of this momentum, and I have a feeling that the dips are just not going to be as brutal.
Where's this momentum
as they
coming
used to be.
from besides the fact that like the shit just keeps forking and creating value in itself? Like Bitcoin's not doing anything. The only thing that's happening with Bitcoin is that people are having problems with it, and then people are like doing stupid shit on top of it.
The funny thing is that there are certain like things about its actual like market cap and its actual ability to hold value that open new opportunities the higher it goes.
But like the reason why it's going up now is because it's popular to talk about it.
Now that it's at 100 billion market cap, it makes it something that certain investment level companies can invest in where they couldn't before. Now that it's worth as much and has got as much attention as it has in the past years, you have like futures exchanges listing futures for it coming out in the next month or two or whatever. And these are major things that affect the market and the market's ability to get exposure to Bitcoin where they couldn't before. And so that's when I say there's a lot of money still to be put into it, there's a lot of value still to be into it. That's kind of what I mean. Is the bigger it grows, the more people rely on its value, the more opportunities will present people to rely on it even more. And that's the whole reason why you want it to be something really streamlined, and you don't want it to be centralized. You want it to be something people really build on, but be still resilient at the same time.
I don't know.
You don't buy the dream. I understand.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But like when I ask you what the dream is, you're not really telling it to me. You're like, it's kind of like this thing that's gonna grow.
Is I don't believe in the dream.
Freedom.
I don't believe in saying what Bitcoin should be or.
But what do you think is like? Do you like? When are you gonna be satisfied? When Bitcoin's at $100,000?
I'm not gonna be satisfied. I only want to live on Bitcoin.
So that's how you like. What's gonna satisfy you? Like all your transactions are in Bitcoin, and then how much is Bitcoin worth? That's what I need to know. I need to know these things, John. You gotta tell me how much is it worth? Because I need to know what the fuck is this? What the fuck are people smoking? Like, what do you think? I'm not getting this.
I'm completely happy with the fact that it's.
I want to be like you. I want to be fucking one of you guys.
Bitcoin continues to appreciate in value on a roughly 3-year schedule, you know, or more, you know, if you include dips and such or downturns, I'll be happy. You know, I'm gonna be dead, you know, in 60 years or whatever or less.
So you
I
really
only
give a
care,
shit
I
what
can
happens
only
to
care
Bitcoin
so
after you
much.
die? You really think like?
I mean, I don't want to do bad things to Bitcoin, but no, obviously the context of my life is limited.
So as long as you're making money on it, it's good. After that time,
I don't know,
fuck
if I have
Bitcoin.
kids or, you know, if I have kids, nephews or whatever, different point of view, but at the moment I don't.
So, okay. So, like, really, the whole world could go fuck itself as long as you get your Bitcoin fucking
I mean,
empire.
this is a different conversation.
No, but,
you know,
like, I'm just, like, I want to know. But, no, but seriously, like, I need to know what's going on with, like, what are we doing here? I need to know, like, what are people thinking about Bitcoin? Because I need to know why am I wrong about this?
I'll get more philosophical or more idealistic. For me, like, I really have a problem with being restricted, with having limitations put on me. And I always, whenever I have to interface with banks or governments or whatever, all these things just
start sweating.
They make me feel constricted, and they make me, and because I have no like voice in being able to communicate, you know, or improve the way these things work. I feel completely disillusioned with my ability to interface with the government and it matter. It's very hard for me to not feel like I'm just in some arbitrary cage. So if I can have money be something that they can't fuck with, and I really don't like the concept of them inflating things and taking value away and forcing me to like have a risk if I want to save money. I don't like that system, you know? And so Bitcoin really answers a lot of the questions. It doesn't feel right to me to just hold stocks and watch them go higher and higher and higher because people have nowhere else to put their money. Like, it feels stupid to me, and I don't like it. And I want to be able to put my money in a place where I think there's actual potential, where there's actual utility, and there's something as actually offering a competitive, you know, unique proposition compared to what the alternatives are, like US dollars or, you know, stuff like that. So for me, it's about, I guess in a way, it's about freedom. It's about being able to have control over the things, my own value.
Because to me, 100%, it's just like, oh, I can make fucking money on my computer?
Great. I mean, I had a mining farm too, you know, when I was first into this, and I had my fun, and I had a garage full of like 12 GPUs, and it was like, you know, 90 degrees in there, and I installed extra circuits and, you know, dealt with all kinds of shit. But then it went to $40 and I said, fuck, I'm out. And then I sold the GPUs, I gave some away, and some are collecting dust.
Damn. But that's what I'm saying, though. Like, technically, those GPUs still have value. If you really wanted to, you could have been mining fucking Ethereum this whole time. You've had like 4 times your investment probably on Bitcoin.
Well, but I also would have, you know, I've been mobile, and I didn't have a place to be doing this shit. And it's
true that.
I have, you know, I only have so much time in a day, and I think my own personal time is worth more than that of a GPU. So.
Well, I mean, I think the argument is that is it though, because like if you spent your entire year mining last year, your investment would have went up, you know, 20 times.
If I had bought Bitcoin with that instead, I probably still would have made more money.
I don't know. So I want to run the numbers on this. We gotta figure this shit out.
If I started a small GPU farm, I don't know, say 5-10 grand, 6 months ago, the price has gone up thousands of dollars, man.
True, but there's also less risk in buying a GPU than buying Bitcoin.
I'm just saying, but now we have the benefit of hindsight. We know it would have been a bad decision, right?
For what? For what?
To open a GPU farm, that 6 months ago, 12 months ago, maybe even 3 months ago, instead of buying Bitcoin, you would have failed. You know, you would have lost money. It would have been more if you just bought Bitcoin.
Let's see. So if you bought 3 months ago, how much was it 3 months ago?
I don't know, man. I mean, this is just more.
It really depends. I mean, yeah, but I mean, like, let's run the numbers real quickly. So let's say if you bought like $3,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? You bought one Bitcoin. It was $3,000. Let's say, and let's say like right now it's let's just say it's $6,000, just to be easy numbers, okay?
Hold on, no. Let's say the real numbers.
Let's just take it like 2 months.
No point. We already did a fake.
I'm gonna use okay, whatever. I'm not. If you spent $3,000 in Bitcoin 6 months ago and you spent $3,000 on your GPUs, right? So you would get probably about 12 GPUs for $3,000. Let's see, $3,000 divided by 6, 5, or 12.
The price was $4,000 3 months ago.
Okay, so it's less than half.
So it's gone up $3,000.
Okay, so that's
$1,000
worse for your argument.
Yeah.
My argument is that, so if you bought a 4,000, so let's just say it's you made your investment. We'll go back to what I said. Let's do 3,000, 6,000 just for easy numbers. So you made twice your investment basically, right? If I spent $3,000 on graphics cards and I was mining every day with them, I'd probably be making $4 and probably between $3 and $6 a piece on them. So what I say, 12. So 12 times, that's like $50 a day times 4 months.
Minus electricity costs, minus hardware costs.
Well, the hardware costs also get you also have a resale value. That's what I'm saying. It's less risky. Okay, so also electricity costs.
You're also doing the absolute most grueling thing to that card to reduce its lifespan.
It's really not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's really not.
And you can fuck up, and you can get.
It's really not.
You can short your card.
You're using a graphics card for exactly what it's supposed to be used for. If you look at server class hardware, that's exactly. They never turn those shits off. It's a fucking computer. They're meant to not catch on fire.
There are expenses to running this shit. You have to watch over it.
The safety precautions. The safety precautions of a mining GPU from AMD is going to be way less of a necessity than the shit I get from fucking China. My fucking Dogecoin miner, my fucking Zeus X6, 45 megahertz, mega hashes.
Way more than buying and holding Bitcoin.
Well, that's what I'm running right now. So hold on, wait a second. Yeah. So wait, $50 a day. So let's just say even less than that. So let's say we're making only.
I think you're cheesing the numbers way too much.
Well, not really, because I don't.
4,000 and went to 7,000. That's a $3,000.
I'm giving you benefit. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here. I'm saying that you went from 3,000 to 6,000. I'm only talking about doubling your investment. I'm talking about doubling your investment in 4 months.
How many cards are you?
We're talking about 12 graphics cards. 12 graphics cards for 3,000.
You can't do that for 3,000. Not even close.
So that's what I'm saying. If you're making $50 a day,
motherboards. You want.
Fine. So let's say 10 graphics cards.
No, probably more like 6.
What, dude, bro?
Dude, how much are the graphic cards?
If you do it, I was doing it $600 per card. So 3,000 divided by 6.
And how many?
Or 500. Sorry, $3,000 by 5.
For motherboard, and what are you going to spend on the motherboards?
Dude, I don't know math, dude. What am I fucking doing here? Hold on.
What about the power supplies? You know that these need at least 1,000-watt power supplies.
Don't make me do math. Hold on. Let me just do this. 1,000 divided by.
You actually need.
It's 6. I'm sorry. You're right.
So you're not going to get anywhere near the profit. I did it before. It's expensive. And if you do luck
I'm not saying I just want to run the numbers. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily right. I just want to run the numbers though before we start making these like crazy claims.
It's silly.
So 6. So it's half that. So let's say you're making $20 a day times 4. So hold on. So let's just say $20 a day because that actually for 6 graphics cards that's not unrealistic at all. $20 a day on 6 graphics cards times 4 months. So 30 times 4 times 6. You're making $720. And also, you still have, let's say, $2,000 of that $3,000 you spent on the graphics cards.
Did you subtract electricity?
Yeah, I'm putting it at $20 a day as opposed to like 30 or whatever. I'm cutting it down.
I mean, I don't know. I think if you did the actual math, you'd come out way behind. Because you're saying
I'll go to whatsamine.com right now. Hold on.
Because you're saying, what if I buy Bitcoins, but I add expense?
No.
What if I just buy Bitcoins? This is what it amounts to.
No.
You're saying I would rather mine enough Bitcoin to equal the $3,000 gap than buy the Bitcoin.
Well, one, you don't know that the price is going to go up. So all I'm saying is that when you mine GPUs,
no way you can
listen.
There's no way
Listen. Look, don't get carried away. All I'm saying is that there's less of a risk in buying a GPU. As if you think that the price is going to stay stable, there's less of a less of a risk in buying a GPU. Yes, Bitcoin went up in the past 4 months, whatever the fuck it went up, but it didn't always do that.
Yeah, but on a time scale of any length, you're going to find that it's going to be hard to compete with the appreciation of Bitcoin. You
can't have the same argument.
Throughout all of its history.
It's not... You know what I mean? Oh shit, Monero fucking jumped today. Whoa, hey guys. Hey, what's going on everybody? Hey! How you doing? MoneroApparel.com. Don't forget, guys. Check that shit out. It's hot fire threads.
I should be fishing right now. How
Damn.
long have we been on?
We've been on for like an hour or so, or at least 2 hours.
An hour and a half.
Oh shit, yeah. We've been live for 1 hour and 38 minutes and 43 seconds. We can wrap it up if you want. I mean, I feel like we got. I didn't ask a lot of things I want to ask you about because I still have to like clarify on like the minute things of Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I think now. I mean, we talk somewhat regularly, so I think now we can start making notes. We can start talking about how to make it interesting.
Never play this game again.
We've learned a very valuable lesson today, which is make sure we've actually played the game together before we try to stream it.
Try to fucking load it up.
Because it took me like
I like this game. This is like if you were like fishing right now,
that.
man, dude, you catching some bass, dude.
I'm catching fish. I just gotta go and I gotta upgrade my shit and all that.
Yeah,
but I would like to play something. I would like to find cause us to have funny interactions.
We should have like a Monopoly night
more
or something.
Player versus player or something. I don't know.
Any type of like turn-based game would be good, or
it's really hard to have good conversation with too much attention. So
yeah, like we're not playing Dota.
It's gotta be a little bit mindless.
Although I'm kind of down for a game of Dota after this. I don't know if you're trying to do that, but
yeah. Actually, yeah, we can play. We can play right now if you want to.
I mean, we could, but we're not gonna be able to talk anymore. Like, I'm just gonna have to turn this shit off, or just like
we can shut off the stream. All right, let's close up the stream.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or anything?
No. I think it's a good time to wrap it. Thanks everybody for listening.
Really appreciate it, guys.
This will be on YouTube. I'll make a podcast version for people that want the audio, and the next show I promise will be better and
bit by bit.
I hope you enjoyed some of the conversation.
Episode 1, Season 1, Volume 1, XXL. Peace out, guys. Oh, well, that's not working. Okay.